Ragnar knows there is still work to do, tasks that aren't finished yet. They want to preach God's word, then Jackson makes a sudden move. He has business to attend to and promises to return by tomorrow morning. Enkrid had no idea he was so busy. Later, they sleep by the fire. Back at base, Enkrid reports to the ferry that the squad has returned. He tells her they found and wiped out the entire Thieves' Guild. The ferry smirks. Did you have fun ditching your snow removal duties? Enkrid plays dumb, but he realizes she already knows way too much. She shifts gears. Word is, you never back down from a duel. Normally, yeah, Enkrid says. Then show me what you've got, she challenges. I know what you're thinking. This isn't a duel, it's straight-up punishment from the ferry. The ferry looks furious. She strikes out, catching him right across the leg. Enkrid hits the dirt hard. Get up, she commands. He grabs his blade. He collapses again, confused. Her sword is just so incredibly thin. It moves like a whip. She keeps shouting at him to stand up. He's helpless without his weapon and falls flat on his back again. She heard he has instant reactions, like he can actually see the future. But right now, he's totally blind. She still can't figure this guy out. Yet, it's a fact he broke the spell and killed 4 elite assassins. This gets her excited. She'll be watching him very closely from now on. This is pathetic, Enkrid thinks. He's a master swordsman, but something is missing. He's never fought with his bare hands. He finally sees the gap. He needs to use his whole body. Martial arts, that's the answer. He finds Alden, who is currently training by lifting a massive tree. Step 1 of martial arts is a hardened body, Alden says, dropping it. The trunk hits the ground with a thud. Enkrid is totally stunned. Reno asks who just threw a massive tree out of nowhere. Alden has a special method. Enkrid asks what the tree is for. It pushes your body to the limit. It's called the isolation method. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see him survive this hell. All right, you and I are about to watch a training session that's straight up torturous. Lunges with a massive boulder on his back. Enkrid honestly thought his life was ending. Alden explained that the core of this technique is pure, unadulterated overload. Muscles only grow when they're ripped apart. Enkrid was nearly crushed by the weight. Just 10 more seconds, Alden barked. I know your limits better than you do. Enkrid gasped out, how could you possibly know what I can actually handle? Alden just asked if he regretted starting so late. No time for that now. You need a stronger foundation before we even touch real martial arts training. Starting sooner would have been easier, but regrets won't build any muscle today. The past is gone. My entire focus is on the here and now. I wouldn't have survived today otherwise. Now, teach me while I'm still down here. Alden was stunned. How could someone be this hungry for more pain? He truly respected that unshakable will. All right, he smiled, let's keep going. Pay attention here, because this next step is where things get even more intense. Enkrid took on 3 more rocks. Even the panther watching him looked genuinely spooked. Enkrid roared in pain. Hold on tight, Alden commanded. Don't you dare quit. Next up, holding 2 heavy rocks with his arms fully extended. Absolute torture. Enkrid was suffering immensely, all while the panther watched from the shadows. By sunset, he crawled back home and just collapsed right at the doorstep. Rem asked if he was being bullied. Why are you always so thrashed? Shaking like a leaf, Enkrid just wheezed out that it was only normal training. The panther curled up beside him. Rem then asked a very important question. Are you keeping her? If so, she really needs a proper name. She's warm, so let's go with Warmy. Yeah, the panther hated that one. How about Blue-Eyed Blackie then? Still no, the cat was not amused. Rem pointed out that those names were basically a form of animal cruelty. Enkrid was crushed. He honestly thought Blue-Eyed Blackie was a cute name. Fine, he'd keep thinking. If she's staying, she deserves something much better. He finally drifted off to sleep, letting the exhaustion take over his mind. Now stick with me, because his dream world is about to get breathtaking. A stunning blue field and northern lights. He wondered if this was real. No boatman in sight this time. This place felt different, more peaceful. Then he turned around and saw her, a mysterious woman watching him. She looked him in the eyes and whispered her name. She was Esther. Enkrid woke up to a shock. A beautiful woman was sleeping beside him. Turns out the panther was actually her. He just quietly whispered goodnight. She seemed so happy as he held her close. Then morning came. Rem asked if he was really heading out to train again already. I have to. Rem worried if he was still hurt from yesterday. Surprisingly, Enkrid felt amazing. His body felt lighter than ever before. Esther had used magic on him. She needed him strong to break her curse. Rem asked if he found a priest, but the answer was weirder. No, Enkrid said. He just had a dream about a beautiful woman. Rem couldn't believe it. What kind of woman could show up in your dreams? And trust me, you and I will be seeing more of her soon. Stick with me, Esther just lowered her head, thankful his eyes were still fine. It's not a problem. Mages are born to explore the infinite mysteries of magic. But searching for knowledge came with a price. I was cursed into a beast. My powers were sealed away. One day, while wandering the fields, I smelled it. A scent of a curse led me to that man, and I followed. Since then, this guide from Jocko Alden has been my only constant companion. Enkrid's recovery is unbelievable. Usually, a broken body takes a full week to heal. Stronger than yesterday, Enkrid kept training, focused and completely at peace. When Enkrid looked at the panther, she snapped, calling him an absolute idiot. Esther, he called out, tell me, how long have you been standing there watching? The magic world revolves around the power of names, she explained very seriously. If I'm called by the wrong name, my remaining powers will weaken even further. I used what little strength I had left to tell you my name, but I made a mistake. At least he's staying sharp, she thought. He's under a curse that's still evolving. Now watch closely. He's carrying a curse far more terrifying than her own. A potent curse that literally devours other curses. If I stay, I might recover. Staying by him is my best shot at recovery. Enkrid just kept training harder. He trained with Alden, pushing back with enough force to avoid being tossed aside. Alden launched a quick knee strike, but Enkrid managed to dodge just in time. Then Alden switched to jiu-jitsu, slamming Enkrid onto his back with raw force. For a fighter, the body must be ready, just like a swordsman's sharp blade. None of this matters if you aren't fast enough. Enkrid was still slow. He moved like a turtle, but his physical form was starting to transform. Alden noticed Enkrid had lost track of time. A whole month had already passed. Enkrid spent every waking hour training hard. He worked with both Alden and Rem. He pushed his limits with the team. Finally, Rem shouted that Enkrid had improved. Now they could finally fight like men. He was more hyped than ever before. Later that afternoon, Enkrid invited Ragna to spar and make up for his meal. Ragna was still eating, but soon they both collapsed on the training ground. But your fundamentals, perfect. You could do these moves in your sleep now. You'll need to repeat this move 1,000 times, and it'll be brutal. Enkrid didn't mind. He was already an expert at enduring the most difficult grinds. That night, he reflected on the squad training. It was good, but not enough. You and I both know training is one thing, but real experience, that hits different. Suddenly, a noise. Jackson attacked from the shadows, but Enkrid caught the dagger. You won't die in an ambush anymore, Jackson praised. You've really leveled up. Christ broke it up, telling them to take their dusty training sessions outside. Aren't you supposed to be earning money? Christ definitely had a plan for that. He started searching the ground for any panther claws that might have fallen. Apparently, one claw is worth 10,000 kronas. Is he lazy or smart? Enkrid couldn't tell. Suddenly, a knock at the door. It was the elf. Squad leader, come with me right now. The snow is gone, Enkrid joked back. Stop playing around, she snapped. We have a brand new mission to handle. You need to pick it up from the mercenary board immediately, she ordered. Trust me, you and I can't afford to miss what happens next. All right, you and I are diving into a world where soldiers are now ranked like commodities. This new directive lets city folks hire trained soldiers as cheap mercenaries. They get better discipline and education for a fraction of the cost. Naturally, everyone is obsessed. Our main character finally has the perfect chance to test it. Meanwhile, a guard nearly jumped out of his skin when his shift suddenly ended. The legendary commander Enkrid stood before him, asking for a specialized mission team. She needs exactly 3 people and wants one specific squad member to join her ranks. But here is the kicker: she is going too, acting as the 3rd member herself. The guard was stunned. Why would a top commander personally head out on this? He could not help but notice Enkrid and the commander were always together lately. They even dueled once. Rumors were flying, was something more than training happening. Are they actually dating? Right then, the commander turned straight toward Enkrid. She asked why he looked so miserable and if he hated being near her. To a nearby gossip, that was pure gold. Now watch this rumor take flight. Did you hear? The commander and Enkrid the Spellbreaker are totally a thing. Everyone was convinced they had been secret lovers since before they even joined up. The gossip mill went into overdrive, and the stories started getting absolutely ridiculous. They were even claiming the two already had kids together. It was total madness. By next morning, every soldier was whispering as Enkrid tried to train in peace. He actually landed a high-tier beauty with that face. Major respect, one joked. Others agreed they looked great together. Enkrid could barely process the nonsense he heard. Back at the platoon, Rem immediately started pestering him, calling him daddy and laughing. So how many months has it been? I heard the baby is arriving any day. Enkrid snapped back that it was just a massive misunderstanding and a baseless rumor. The guys told him not to be shy because the whole world already knew. Despite his constant denials, Ragna jumped in to add some fuel to the fire. He told Enkrid to stick with her, and he would provide the special training. Alden even offered to pray for his future. Enkrid just felt like a punching bag. Rem kept poking, asking when the wedding date was so he could avoid third wheeling. Enkrid pivoted to the mission, coldly telling Rem he was not even invited along. You and I both know Rem's ego just took a massive hit right there. Jackson is the one going. Rem was furious. Why take that damn cat instead? He asked if Enkrid had lost his mind, but Enkrid had a very specific reason. Rem's temper was too dangerous. He would probably attack the commissioner if he got annoyed. Jackson wondered if he was only chosen because he was seen as the quiet one. Enkrid simply said Jackson was experienced and reliable when things got tough on missions. But then Jackson dropped some heavy advice. Never give your heart away to women. Keep your distance, he warned, or you will just end up getting hurt eventually. Enkrid shut that down fast. He definitely did not want any cynical dating tips. As the trio met up, Enkrid asked when the commissioner would finally arrive. He prayed the commander had not heard the rumors yet. Imagine how awkward that would be. Then, Commander Fod looked him in the eye and asked a very direct question. Did we somehow make everyone think we already have multiple children together? She asked. Enkrid could only manage a flat no, while Jackson started cracking up behind them. And trust me, that is a level of awkwardness you and I never want to experience. Stick with me, we are diving into a world of secrets. Enkrid swore he heard that laugh. The commander asked if her interrogation made him uncomfortable, but the main character simply said no. She pushed further, asking if it made him happy. He hesitated, yes, no, maybe. He had no answer, only wondering why she was even digging into his head like this. The commissioner arrived, catching our main character in a very awkward spot. The commander joked that he arrived just when things were finally starting to get fun. Enkrid glared back, questioning her twisted sense of humor and that mocking look on her face. Their real job was simple: protect the heir of a massive, wealthy merchant guild. The Hogford Trading Company was in the middle of deciding which heir would lead them. They were hired as muscle to make sure the two heirs did not kill each other. Now here is a surprise you, and I definitely did not see coming. The heir was a total beauty. She introduced herself as Leona, heir to the company, greeting everyone with a polite, royal grace. As the caravan moved, a maid stayed by Leona's side. The main character watched them closely. He noticed the silence. Since they met, no one had actually spoken directly to the girl. Every bit of communication was filtered through that maid, like she was a living barrier. The plan was to secure an inn and wait for the other heirs to arrive. Enkrid realized they were only there as high-end escorts. He recalled Alden's training, analyze everything. age, posture, even the way a person looks. In this world, reading an enemy's strategy is a vital skill. He started scanning. The guard ahead was left-handed, moving with a heavy, calculated rhythm. Her gear was dense, and her sword alone signaled she possessed some terrifying, raw strength. None of them felt as strong as a special rank elite. His analysis was not perfect, but it worked. Then, Jackson suggested a game to kill time. The challenge was simple: identify every single sound in the area. Jackson heard a paper bag crumpling. Enkrid instantly spotted a woman near a food stall. A rhythmic hammer strike followed. Jackson called it out immediately. He found a blacksmith at work. Then, a sharp tongue click cut through the air. "You are getting slow," he thought. The sound came from a man by the shoe shop. Locating every noise was harder than it looked. It required focus most people just do not have. The left-handed knight told Enkrid to stay upstairs while they secured the rest of the inn. The commander thought the sound game looked interesting and decided she wanted in on the action. Fairies are naturally more sensitive than humans. They kept identifying sounds, but the gap in ability was very obvious. Jackson and the commander were picking up things Enkrid could barely even hear. He was struggling just to keep pace with their razor-focused senses. Okay, wait, this is where the vibe shifts from a game to a total bloodbath. Someone is behind Jackson. Jackson dropped the assassin instantly. Beside him, the commander was already dealing out her own death. He knew an ambush was coming. She sensed it too. Assassins everywhere. Enkrid easily cut them down with cold precision. "Protect the commander," he shouted while rushing up. An enemy launched a flurry of strikes right in his direction. Jackson parried every blow easily, while the commander tore through enemies fiercely. The assassins panicked, wondering why these guards were so strong. One laughed in their shocked faces. "Do not worry, we have the numbers, and numbers usually win the day. Trust me, Jackson is thinning their numbers. Stick with me, you and I are watching a squad follow a leader." Everyone trusted his lead, and she wondered who forged that kind of bond. She kept killing while Enkrid rushed up the stairs to find her. He recalled the shadow assassins who went after Krang and the half-fairy. Attacks like these were barely a challenge for him anymore. He watched the man's sloppy movements, wondering where he was even going. A surprise stab came in. Odin once called him slow, but he reacted instantly. He flung the man away effortlessly. His body felt completely different now. While Enkrid finished that guy, Leona came running out of the room. As little Leona ran out, another killer was waiting for her inside. Another killer screamed for Aspen as he prepared to end them both. The killer was way too close. He had to stop him right now. He couldn't use daggers here. He had to reach them himself. Pay attention here. He's about to move faster than ever. He recalled an unbelievable burst of speed he had once seen from a knight. Perfect imitation was impossible, but even a bit of it would be enough. He accelerated like a bullet, reaching the girls before the killer could strike. Enkrid stood as a shield, taking the full impact of the attack himself. The blade cut his cloak, but a sturdy mantle was hidden underneath. The blade hit hard, but his leather armor saved him from injury. He looked the man in the eyes. "Why don't we finish this downstairs?" Enkrid grabbed him tight and sent him flying through the second-story window. The drop was huge. That fall nearly ended the assassin's life right there. Enkrid used the guy's body to cushion his own fall to the ground. The assassin was battered but stood up. He actually had some guts. Drawing two swords, he called Enkrid a lunatic and asked if he was a guard. Enkrid simply said no. The man still thought he could win this fight. He held two different-sized blades, yet his balance was perfectly stable. This was the art of fluid sword play, a truly dangerous style to face. Enkrid analyzed him, wondering exactly how he should counter such a weird style. The arrogant assassin promised to kill him before going after the woman next. Enkrid asked if anyone told him he talked too much, then gestured for battle. You and I are finally seeing his first real fight in ages. This was a real challenge. Enkrid wondered which of his new skills he should use first. He watched closely as the killer moved in with both blades ready. Enkrid dodged the first strike beautifully, moving with a grace he never had before. But the second sword kept coming. The pressure was relentless, strike after strike. He kept dancing around the blades, his eyes locked onto every single movement. The man tried to take out his legs, but Enkrid hopped back easily. As the assassin lunged with full power, Enkrid slipped past and vanished. Enkrid vanished and reappeared behind him, leaving the assassin in pure shock. He couldn't believe it. This random nobody had just dodged every single attack. Enkrid admitted he was impressed. He lacked the talent to learn that style. But his own speed and precision were now rivaling even the greatest dagger masters. Trust me, you and I see his total confusion. All right, they attack again, but you and I see Enkrid enter the zone. Time slows down as he tracks every single move they make. Enkrid glides his sword on the perfect path to strike the neck. He admits he missed the heart, still plenty of room for improvement. Maybe training with Ragnar or Jackson is the next step for him. The man collapses, and the rest of the gang start to run. Now pay attention, because Enkrid wants to hunt every last one of them. Jackson reminds him they have caused enough of a scene. Targets are fleeing. Are you really just going to let them escape without a fight? Chasing criminals isn't part of the contract. Our job is done here, kid. The mission comes first, so Jackson wants to keep moving forward right now. The fairy praises him, saying that fight wasn't actually half bad at all. Are you okay? She just stares back with a weirdly serious look. Teasing him about having butterflies in his stomach for his supposedly beloved lady. He knows she's mocking him. Leona asks if the two are actually dating. Absolute denial from Enkrid, while the fairy asks if it was a joke. He honestly starts wondering what is wrong with all of these strange people. She asks his name. I'm Enkrid. She's genuinely grateful he kept her alive, promising a massive reward for his service in the near future. He turns it down. It's just the mission. That makes her even more curious. The few assassins caught are handed over to the army for questioning. Extra guards arrive just in case they decide to strike a second time. Enkrid wonders who they were. Some of those guys were top-tier fighters. Let's be real here, they were definitely sent by the other rival heirs. Leona descends the stairs, noticing Enkrid is already awake before the sun's up. It's just my shift. She asks the soldier to take a walk with her. She offers him a permanent spot in her own private army. Thinking the Rock Fried Company is honestly a bit beneath his talent. She lists off her massive alliances, including the Beastland Shepherds and Dragon Hunters. Dragon Hunters and the Glacial Guardians, famous defenders of the permafrost regions. She also holds the company map, the key to every major trade route. A single sale of that intel could buy a life of pure luxury. She claims this is all far too much for the old owner's children. She needs to expand the guild, and for that, she needs elite talent. People with enough raw power to keep her safe from impending death. Plus, she likes that Enkrid isn't the type to chase extra rewards. A spot by her side is a dream job, and Enkrid must want it. She offers him everything he desires if he joins her right now. But Enkrid says no hesitation. She can't believe he just rejected her. Why? Jackson steps in, telling her to stop pestering the poor guy. But Enkrid refuses. She notices he didn't even hesitate for a second. Why? Jackson appears, telling her it's inappropriate to keep pestering after rejection. The fairy agrees, calling her desperate behavior totally improper and out of line. Leona admits they're right. The other association heirs arrive at noon today. And trust me, you and I are going to want to watch this. All right, stick with me. You are about to see Enkrid charm another rich lady. Jackson jokes that complicated women are his type, but the main character denies it. Jackson insists he needs to stop flirting, though Enkrid swears he did nothing wrong. The elf lady assumes he has a lover and starts pouting like she is crying. Already out of patience, Enkrid snaps that she is definitely not his type anymore. Jackson and the elf are shocked that he actually dared to reply like that. Outside, people wonder if they heard right. He is charming women in public now. They call him a scoundrel for flirting right in front of the female commander. Our main character realizes he has accidentally created a very delicate situation for himself. Leona laughs it off, while Christ asks if he is already sleeping with her. Everyone gossips about how Enkrid won over rich eyes after just one night. They claim he is not just a spellbreaker, but a total heartbreaker as well. Speechless, Enkrid asks Christ if he only came here to mock his personal life. Christ gets serious, though, warning him about the dangerous Gilfin Guild instead. Now pay attention. This is the moment where the main character makes his move. He needs Christ to capture the fugitives and uncover their secret master plan. The talk shifts to Reno's Rockreed, the legendary former Merchant Association powerhouse. He was an admirable businessman who had a sharp mind for making money. Reno's wanted his adopted daughter Leona as successor because of her incredible intellect. But he could not just ignore his own son, making the succession very messy. He passed away without choosing an heir, leaving the Merchant Association in total chaos. Meanwhile, an assassin tells Leona's brother that the hit on her was a failure. He regrets the lost chance, saying Pollard should have just trusted the professionals. Pollard Rockreed grows apprehensive as his men ask if the agreement is still on. He stammers, promising them massive rewards once he finally inherits the entire fortune. But the second man in the carriage seems very skeptical about the whole thing. When they reach the tavern, Jackson and Enkrid keep a close eye on everyone. Enkrid hates the dusty air, complaining it is just like Leona to choose this spot. He instantly senses the power radiating from the man standing right beside her. You and I can feel the tension as they lock eyes for a moment. Pollard starts barking at Jackson, demanding he bring Leona to him right now. Enkrid is glad the king is not here, or this would have ended in blood. His Majesty would have split Pollard in two with a single axe strike. Jackson is not exactly calm either, his hand drifting toward the dagger on his back. Enkrid grabs his hand, while Pollard continues to bark orders at them impatiently. Leona tells him to stop yelling, calling his behavior absolutely rude and pathetic. She points out that Pollard is late, but he just insults her bodyguard. He tells her to educate her staff, but Leona responds with a massive slap. Enkrid watches the violence, wondering if anyone he knows is actually normal. Jackson takes offense, asking if Leona has finally lost her mind for doing that. Leona snaps back, calling him crazy for picking a fight with a border guard. She asks if he really wants to rot in prison for the next few decades. Hearing that, Pollard begins to back down, claiming he did not know the man's rank. The man behind him gives a small cough to get him back on track. And that is where we leave it, Pollard backpedaling and acting completely innocent. Ped is absolutely furious. He can't believe she dares to yell at him as family. Leona knows she was adopted, but points out Ped can't even read a basic trade map. He can't calculate finances either. Ped starts sweating bullets as his incompetence is fully exposed. He claims that's just servant work, and he only cares about his father's final will. For him, it's insane to choose a successor based on a simple argument like this one. Enkrid realizes the former owner was too kind. Looking at them, Leona is the obvious choice. The old man probably just wanted to give his useless son one last, final chance. Leona shuts him down, noting his only claim to the throne is a simple blood connection. Ped asks what could possibly be more important than bloodline in a family like theirs. Leona retorts that he shares 0 traits with his father and is just incredibly ignorant. She wonders who he actually takes after. Ped loses it and starts cursing her out. He reaches for his blade. Enkrid is ready to move, but the guards are faster. Everyone draws their steel. Enkrid calmly steps in front of Leona to shield her. He stares into Ped's eyes, analyzing his stance. This guy uses a fluid style. But is he fast? Faster than the king's axe or a silent dagger? Pay attention here. Enkrid dares the man to step up and show his skills. As Ped prepares to strike, Enkrid just smiles, looking absolutely eager for the clash. Suddenly, the border guard shuts it down. They serve the king directly and want peace. Anyone who keeps their sword out will be branded a traitor to the crown. Ped finally backs off. Enkrid sighs, realizing the fun is over for now. Jackson watches him, remembering Enkrid's words that nobody he knew was normal. He realizes the irony. Enkrid is easily the most eccentric of them all. Let's pause. The guard reveals the assassins were foreigners hired by a merchant guild. They question Ped, asking if he hired them to settle this succession feud. Ped's panicked face says everything. His bodyguard tries to step in and play smart. He asks for specifics, doubting the guards could pinpoint any one merchant association. The officer tells him to shut up. Did he really think the guards were stupid? Amidst the chaos, Leona makes an offer. She wants to find the real culprits. She suggests arresting both of them until the truth finally comes to light. Ped is horrified. He definitely didn't sign up for a prison cell today. Enkrid finds this whole thing bizarre. The victim is literally asking to be arrested. The official explains that the current prisoners are just small fry with no info. They just repeat whatever orders their boss gave them. It's a dead end. Leona argues that some suspects fled the scene. They need to find the boss. One of those escapees must hold the crucial details. Why aren't they hunting them? She pushes the official, asking why he isn't trying harder to track them down. He asks if she's really found nothing else behind this whole complex mess. Leona believes there's a much deeper conspiracy at play behind all of this. The boss is still out there, and Leona isn't letting this go easily. She knows the true mastermind is hiding in the shadows, waiting for another strike. If they don't act now, the Merchant Association will just send more killers. The official looks at her, realizing she's far more dangerous than she looks. And trust me, you and I are going to see exactly how this ends. All right, you and I are diving into a high-stakes meeting with the border guards. No more talking about their secret alliance. It is way too risky. You and I are watching them return, provided they come back the second they're summoned. Enkrid, however, was convinced they'd be sitting ducks once they left those city walls. Leona's personal guards, they stood zero chance against the raw power of the Dipalides. He kept thinking about that guy with the rapier. She's dead once she leaves protection. Enkrid knew the score. He finally asked her, so, what exactly is your plan here? Leona just smirked, playing the merchant card. She never asks for favors without paying. Now pay attention, because she's about to offer a reward that changes everything for everyone. She pulls out an item that immediately makes Jackson's eyes light up with pure greed. It's the fourth piece of the legendary Carmen collection, a stunning dagger with a dark history. Jackson tells Enkrid to go get it, practically drooling over that beautiful little stiletto. He begs for the task. Enkrid definitely notices Jackson is way too motivated for this. What's so special about this blade? Even Piped is losing it just looking at it. He's wondering if she's gone crazy. Does she even realize how much that thing is worth? Leona says it's her blade, so she'll do what she wants. Enkrid just watches her. Enkrid's still confused, but everyone else is shocked he's never heard of the legendary Carmen. See, Carmen was a slave-turned-assassin who forged her own weapons for her revenge. She had 7 signature weapons, and this stiletto right here, it was the 4th one. People would literally kill to get their hands on a masterpiece like that. It's legendary. Grey Dog and Tom Conquadra step forward to make an announcement to the group. The guards have everyone in custody now. Nobody is allowed to leave this area yet. Jackson tells them not to worry about the blade. He already sent Dog for it. We'll know more soon. Pepide is just thinking that this is all just pure insanity. We both know something's brewing. Enkrid catches a guard's gaze before the man walks away. Pepe is worried about what happens if the mercenaries actually get caught during the night. Elsewhere, a group is plotting. They can't move against the guards yet, so they wait. They need a consensus on a successor, or the greedy investors will take everything away. If they don't act fast, those money-hungry outsiders will jump on this moment of weakness. The leader is confident. It'll be fine, he says, because he's already making moves. If he can just flip half of them to his side, he'll definitely prevail here. As they scheme, a guard spots Enkrid outside, training alone under the bright moonlight. Grey Dog walks up, asking why he's still doing that same boring, monotonous training routine. Tors joins in too, wondering why Enkrid isn't taking this chance to finally get rest. Enkrid's answer is deep. He says he'd rest if he was a genius, but he's not. To him, time doesn't have the same value. He has to work much, much harder. What a genius learns in a week, Enkrid needs a month, or maybe even a year. He refuses to waste even a single second. He's building his future one swing away. In his head, he's determined. Every day is a chance to build a solid foundation. The other men are impressed. Is this guy just built different, or are we lazy? Tors tells him to take it easy on the power quest. He's already strong enough. He claims their last tie was only because he didn't expect much from the kid. But now, he's ready. With a smirk, he challenges our main character to a fight. Tors lands his wooden sword strike perfectly, moving with speed that surprises the watchers. He stops it right at Enkrid's neck. A real sword would have ended him right there. The guys cheer, that's 7 wins. Tors is on fire today and everyone is happy. Trust me, you and I are about to see if he ever stops. All right, you and I are back with Enkrid as he faces his 11th defeat. Everyone was itching to fight him. Pepide noticed the chaos from above. What are these guys doing so late at night? He wondered, watching closely. Suddenly, one of the men slammed Enkrid onto his back in one move. The rapier man watched with interest. Enkrid just got up and grinned. What was that? Do it again, he demanded. The man called him eccentric. Losing did not hurt his pride. Instead, he looked like a happy child. His raw hostility against a stronger opponent proved that Enkrid was truly unique. But the man thought he had 0 talent, falling for every single trick. Still, Enkrid managed to win by using that exact same move himself. He falls for the same basic trick every single time. 0 fighting talent. But finally, Enkrid managed to score a win using that same move. Everyone witnessed his first successful counterattack in 5 brutal bouts. Enkrid asked who was next. Meanwhile, the fairy started complaining about him. He flirts with everyone. Such a sly man, she pouted to Leona. The fairy laughed it off as a joke, but then quickly corrected herself. Actually, we are married, she declared. Now the situation was getting truly chaotic. Leona was stunned, but the fairy added that they were even expecting a child. Hearing the madness, Enkrid yelled that this talk was distracting him from fighting. Please just go back inside soon, he shouted, trying to regain his focus. Now pay attention here, this is where the real power dynamic shifts. Tors narrowed his eyes at the stranger. What are your intentions here? The rapier man ignored him, his eyes locked on Enkrid with pure fascination. His talent is nothing special, he remarked, yet I feel like teaching him. I cannot hold back anymore, he said, stepping forward with his wooden staff. A guard told him to stay quiet, but Enkrid welcomed the challenge immediately. The rapier man smiled. Up above, Jax watched every move with intense focus. He realized the man was dangerous, even while wielding a simple wooden stick. I better be ready, Jax thought, tightening his grip on his sharp dagger. Facing his opponent, Enkrid felt a familiar tension surge through his entire body. It felt like being back at war. He braced for the incoming thrust. Using his zone, he could see the attack path with perfect and clear clarity. There was a feint, but the man was clearly aiming for his neck. He tried to block the line and counter, but he was already dead. I know what you're thinking. That speed is absolutely insane, right? Enkrid thought of the fluid sword technique, the fastest style he ever saw. The man warned him that true speed was far beyond what he imagined. You think you are stronger, but you are not. Your goal is far away. Enkrid looked at the terrifying gap between them and simply started laughing. Again, he requested. The man smiled, impressed by the boy's incredible attitude. They kept at it all night, while the rest of the world slept. While the others slept, they kept at it. Enkrid felt a deep desperation. He knew the despair of facing an opponent who simply could not be beaten. Every single time he attacked, he ended up hitting the dirt once again. And that is where we leave it. Stick with me for what comes next. All right, you and I are about to see if Enkrid can survive this training. Jackson knows his reaction speed is way too slow. He'll never climb that wall. Jackson wants to teach him about speed. He says that's enough, get some sleep. Enkrid is still buzzing with energy though. That fluid sword style, absolutely incredible. He's determined to learn it. Jackson just laughs, watching Enkrid's purely impressed reaction. Jackson thinks it's a shame. If only the kid had more talent, he'd be good. Next morning, Christ arrives to speak with Tors. Things are finally starting to move. I caught the runaway mercenaries, he announces, bringing in a group of beaten fighters. Enkrid thinks he did great, but Christ just says he found them hiding nearby. Leona notes they're likely from Enkrid's old squad and offers a quick thank you. She thanks Christ before Tors, asks the captured merchant who hired them all. Watch closely, the merchant cracks, and shouts that it was Aspen behind it. They realize it's a merchant association, looking to expand deep into the conflict zones. He swears he doesn't know the mastermind. He's just a middleman caught in between. All he received was a letter and cash, with a promise of more later. Pept feels a chill, while Leona leaves the rest to the border guards. Tors notices Leona seems satisfied. He asks if she expected that bastard Petio's involvement. She admits she did. She even offered her precious stiletto as a reward for proof. Tors understands her side. He declares that finishing these guys off is his job. He tells the others they're free to go. Jackson already has his stiletto ready. Enkrid quickly stops him. Don't pull that out in public. Jackson actually listens. He asks if he's really that happy. Sometimes the guy acts like a child. Christ pulls Enkrid aside to talk. He has a very serious warning for him. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Christ's warning for our hero is intense. Don't fall for Leona, he warns. Enkrid says he won't, but Christ insists. Enkrid finds it all strange. It feels like Petio hired them, but what about Aspen? He ran into serious trouble when those guys appeared and another group showed up. He wonders about Aspen as he remembers the trouble he faced meeting those guys. He's going to talk with Christ, the servant of Leona from Squad 444. Christ explains they had clues and knew everything about the Jiffin Guild's moves. They even tried to bribe the army to release those mercenaries and cause chaos. Enkrid wonders what Leona gains by proving Petio is the one behind all this. Leona is just relieved. It avoids a bad record regarding the former leader's failures. Will you be all right? He asks. Without protection outside the border, Petio might strike. She flashes a mischievous smile and says she's already handling that bastard personally. This avoids a bad record and protects the reputation of their former leader. Enkrid notices her loyalty, but she assumes he's not interested in that stuff. Will you be all right? He asks. You won't have protection outside the border now. If Petio decides to attack again, there will be problems. She just smiles mischievously. I'm already handling him, she says. Ahead of them, a large battalion waits. Standing there is Mats, the commander of the Rockfried Merchant Association's elite guards. He announces he's there to escort the new leader, Leona Rockfried, home. She had been chosen unanimously by every single stakeholder to be the next leader. The entire platoon kneels before her as she takes her rightful place. You and I just watch the platoon kneel to their queen as Enkrid observes. All right, you and I are about to see Leona play the long game. She stayed 2 days, securing shareholders through pure loyalty and decisive action. Enkrid thinks she is one seriously terrifying woman. Leona looks at him and says asking again would be an insult. She won't ask him to join her again. Instead, she reaches out her hand. You have a gift for making people support you. Let's help each other as friends. This time, Enkrid is more relaxed. He takes her hand and agrees. Pippin then questions Mats. Was he oblivious or part of his father's betrayal? Mats snaps back, telling Pippin to stop dishonoring his name right now. A severe reprimand that leaves Pippin completely speechless. Missionaries watch from the shadows, calling the whole operation a failure. But watch this, one of them actually sees a silver lining. Now we know the Rockfried Empire's new leader is incredibly clever. But that's not all. The missionary is thinking about someone else. That peculiar soldier, he remembers what happened the night before. The man with the harp warned Enkrid to lower his sword immediately. I admire your grit, but you lack the talent to face me, he says. It's a painful and shameful sight, words Enkrid hasn't heard in years. But Enkrid fires back. He never listened to advice and still made it this far. The man just laughs as Enkrid stands his ground despite the clear power gap. Then, without another word, the mysterious man turns and walks away. Back with his platoon, Enkrid tries to talk to Rem. Rem is annoyed, sure that Enkrid will just choose that wretched fox anyway. You and I saw this coming. Enkrid needs him for serious training. Rem is shocked but happy. Does the main character really need his help? To master fluid swordsmanship, Enkrid needs to make split-second decisions. He searches for the most efficient line as Rem launches a fierce attack. Predicting the next move, he focuses on an explosive and flowing motion. The energy flows through him, and Enkrid manages to nick Rem's neck. Rem is stunned. He can't believe how strange this progress feels. Enkrid realizes he's actually faster than Rem now. It's working. The fundamentals, the flexibility, the fortified muscles, it's all coming together. You really surprised me, Rem says. You've learned to swing much faster. Rem gets excited, shouting that he's going to get even faster too. Enkrid doesn't fully get it until a massive blow hits him hard. The power is overwhelming. He can barely stay on his feet. Rem doesn't slow down, attacking with even more ferocity than before. Rem's axe was always quick, but now it's swifter and more terrifying. The two engage in an absolutely electrifying duel of speed. Enkrid knows he still has a long way to go to reach the top. Later that afternoon, Jackson suddenly attacks, but Enkrid is ready. His senses are sharp. He doesn't think his eyes and ears need more training. He asks Jackson if he really came all this way just to talk. Jackson just smiles and says that for now, that's exactly why. So what do you and I think? Is he really the fox Rem warned about? Stick with me, we are about to see how a mental strike changes everything. Jackson explained the concept of killing intent, the raw desire to end a life. If Enkrid could not rely on sight or sound, he would need another way. He had to sense that murderous energy. This hidden power would change his game. It would let him feel things beyond his five senses, a true sixth sense. As thanks for the stiletto, Jackson promised to guide him through this new training. Enkrid realized the path of a warrior never truly ends. There is always more. Training was about to begin, and honestly, Enkrid looked like he was having fun. Jackson pointed out that Enkrid's reaction relied purely on instinct, which was not enough. He could not just rely on perception, since that only used the five senses. Jackson explained that movement and the predator's hunt are all part of core instincts. To truly master the sixth sense, Enkrid would have to fight until instincts sharpened. Constant battle would eventually allow him to pick up on any hidden malicious intent. Suddenly, Enkrid felt something nearby. He was already starting to notice small changes. Jackson warned him it would not be easy. This is where you and I watch. With enough training, that sixth sense would wake up. Later that night, things changed. Rem noticed a change in Enkrid. Enkrid just wondered if he had gained muscle. He thought his body was just getting bigger, but Rem knew better than that. Alden mentioned his constant smiling, but Ragnar was not convinced that was the reason. Christ, always the loudmouth, claimed our main character was acting crazier than usual. Everyone actually agreed with him. They all felt Enkrid's sanity was slowly slipping away. Enkrid joked that he was the only sane person left in this group of lunatics. He thought they were the crazy ones, but Jackson had a very different perspective. You and I know Jackson is right. Enkrid is the wildest one of them. As they settled for sleep, the panther climbed onto Enkrid's bed yet again. Rem joked about him smelling like food, but the panther saw his true exhaustion. She realized he had pushed his physical limits once more. She watched him closely. He was training to the brink of death every single day. It was insane. Only his magic kept him alive. If he died now, her curse would remain. She had to keep him safe. Suddenly, she noticed something peculiar near his side. She examined his clothes and felt a strange magical energy flowing through the fabric. For Enkrid, every day was a cycle. Train, repeat, and never get tired of it. Night after night, Rem and Alden watched as he continued his grueling stone training. He did not care about the pain. Knowing he was stronger was his reward. He just kept pushing, training and meditating even when the rest of the world slept. Deep in his midnight meditation, he caught sight of Jackson passing by in the dark. This happened more and more. Enkrid kept a close eye on Jackson's every move. Soon, everyone around them started to see the terrifying progress he was making. Rem told him to forget that previous comment. Enkrid had not actually changed. But Alden found it weird. He could see Enkrid was evolving at a crazy speed. He had improved so much in a single day. Even Ragnar was losing it. He used to think Enkrid was just a genius, but now, he was not sure. Jackson noted that if all this training did not yield results, things would end. Rem knew that nothing beats real combat experience. It was time for a test. And that is where we leave it, trust me, this hunt will be legendary. Stick with me, you're about to see how our hero, Enkrid, finally levels up. He heads to the quest board, thinking his 4 mentors are pushing for real experience. They want him to test his limits, but Enkrid just doesn't feel like he is improving. He feels stuck, staring at the missions while searching for something that finally clicks for him. Suddenly, a voice interrupts his thoughts, suggesting a specific job if nothing else caught his eye. Enkrid checks it out and sees a strange request to investigate a local shoemaker's dusty basement. He is confused. Why would a basement investigation need a high-level fighter like him? Carol explains that one team just isn't enough to handle what might be down there. Word is, the shoemaker is convinced there's something undead lurking right beneath his own feet. This actually grabs Enkrid's attention, even though he thinks undead in a city is totally impossible. He figures the old man probably just heard a big rat scurrying around in the dark. But here's where it gets interesting. Enkrid knows he desperately needs the combat experience. Carolto turns to the young hero, admitting that nobody else will even touch this mission. Apparently, the shoemaker is a total nightmare to work with, despite being a decent guy. Plus, his wife just went missing, leaving the poor man completely desperate and losing his mind. Carol begs Enkrid to just take a quick look to put the grieving man's mind at ease. Enkrid refuses at first. This isn't the kind of work he usually does. But against his better judgment, he accepts. Soon, he arrives at the shoemaker's humble home. A young girl directs him downstairs, saying her father is already busy tearing up the floorboards. Enkrid remembers the warning about the man's temper as he heads into the damp darkness. Downstairs, the shoemaker points to a massive hole he dug, revealing something truly shocking hidden beneath. It's a full-on tunnel, sitting right in the middle of the crowded city's foundation. The old man was right, there's no way a simple rat could have built this. As they head inside, Enkrid realizes this tunnel is massive and clearly built by human hands. You and I both know that where there are tunnels, monsters are usually hiding nearby. He reaches a fork with 6 different paths. This place is a literal underground labyrinth. This was built to be a maze, Enkrid realizes. Then the shoemaker freezes. A terrifying sound echoes through the walls. The old man is sure it's the undead. Enkrid tells him to stay back and not rush in blindly. "I'll lead the way," he says. He steps forward, but the moment his foot touches the floor, the ground begins to glow. Blinding light fills the tunnel and the temperature skyrockets. It's a trap, and it's active. A massive wall of fire erupts, swallowing both of them whole in an instant. Suddenly, Enkrid wakes up in his own bed, his panther companion sleeping soundly beside him. He remembers the heat. 1 second he was there, the next he was completely burned alive. He couldn't even move. That wasn't a normal trap, that was high-level fire magic. He starts rethinking everything he knows about fighting mages. Meanwhile, the king calls for him. They talk about their meeting from yesterday, where Enkrid had mentioned he needed more real combat. But now he knows better. When you're facing a mage, your first instinct should be running. You're lucky if the magic kills you, he thinks, because surviving a mage is even worse. That goes double for their traps. 1 wrong step and it's game over before you blink. He keeps obsessing over that fire trap. How do you even train to survive something like that? He needs a new skill, something that can break through the impossible barrier of magic. Looking back at the board, that same shoemaker quest is staring him in the face. He needs a specialist's help, because this isn't a wall he can just punch his way through. Trust me, you and I have to see what Commander Fod says next. All right, stick with me, because we are about to watch a hero dive into hell. He had to act before that impulsive man went to the house alone. He smashed the door open, scaring the girl, and asked for her father. She said he was in the basement, Enkrid rushed down but was too late. The old man had already thrown himself into the pit as Enkrid arrived. He begged him to stop, but the flames completely engulfed them both. He woke up with Carrant, knowing he needed a much faster way. He had to see the shoemaker first and warn him to stay away. Death was only a flash, but he still felt his skin melting into ash. Even through that pain, he refused to give up on his mission. Pay attention here. The cost of being a hero is steeper than you think. The pain felt like millions of needles, passing through his entire body. But doing nothing while an innocent man died would hurt even more. That is how a knight acts. The next morning, Enkrid set out again. "I am going to save that annoying shoemaker," he boldly declared. The king wondered if some leather-booted monster was causing this trouble. Enkrid went to the house, hoping to stop the man from digging. He tried to make him ignore the danger, but the risk remained. "I will go in alone," Enkrid said, ordering the man to stay back. The shoemaker refused to let him enter his own home alone. Enkrid insisted until the man gave in. He had a new plan. He thought about finding a magic expert, but there was no time. Who would even listen to his request? He had to face this alone. As he walked, Enkrid pondered the mystery of the deadly trap. "I know what you're thinking. Why keep dying? Well, watch what happens next." His life and his squad were at risk. He needed every scrap of intel. One of these paths had to be safe. He just needed to find it. Going through them was the only way to find the truth. Returning was easy, but he believed there had to be a better clue. Finding the trap's location was the only thing that made sense. He wondered how many times he had died and what he felt. When did he truly lose? Was it when his sword was taken? Was it the feeling of a cold blade piercing his throat? Or was it when he felt his opponent's overwhelming murderous intent? Enkrid remembered the words about a force that only wants you dead. He recalled that killing intent while facing the magical forces ahead. He perceived the attack before it arrived, but still died in a flash. Back again, he realized he had just felt the trap's soul. He repeated the cycle tirelessly, dying in various traps along the way. He felt the murderous intent of every trap that claimed his life. Enkrid spoke those words even as his body was split in half. Back at the hole, he knew the mission: detect the killing intent. He could not enter blindly. He had to sharpen his senses now. He needed to go in and out until he could feel it properly. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, you must see what happens next. All right, you and I are diving into Enkrid's nightmare loop, where every step matters. He followed the path of blades once more, certain that was the source. It hit him. He wasn't sensing danger. He was just remembering the pain. The shoemaker asked why he was pacing back and forth like a madman. Enkrid reminded him, "I asked you to stay upstairs for your own safety." Enkrid had never tried this route before, but he'd keep going until he felt something. As night fell, the shoemaker wondered what Enkrid was doing out so late. Enkrid was out so late without eating. Enkrid said he would be back. "By tomorrow morning. Don't come down, there are traps everywhere." The man asked for help because he could barely sleep, afraid of losing his daughter. Enkrid questioned if the shoemaker had any clues about his missing wife. Lately, many people had vanished, so the authorities simply didn't care anymore. "If you see a dark-haired, freckled woman wearing a wedding ring, please let me know." Enkrid promised he would. That night, resting beside the beast Pantara, Enkrid began to meditate. He tracked Jackson, but looked in the wrong direction. "Is it like this just because you're seeing that man in leather boots?" Questioned Panta. "Just give up on this for tonight and go to sleep." Enkrid agreed. Now check this out, it was his first cycle without dying. He wondered if the day would advance to tomorrow if he stayed alive. Enkrid noted that there was only one way to find out what happened. During the night, Karen made her move while the rest of the world slept. The next morning, Enkrid started saying the exact same things as the day before. He noticed he'd reset again, wondering what would happen if he didn't sleep. But the next morning, he still woke up in bed after eventually passing out. Enkrid thought that he'd appeared there without even having time to blink. He watched the entire script replay, unable to pass without breaking the wall. However, Enkrid concluded there were no problems since he wouldn't run away anyway. He had no intention of facing tomorrow without overcoming this nightmare first. Thus, 20 days passed. Enkrid said this was far worse than simple fear. He could feel death looming. While he followed the same path, 40 days passed. Then 50, 60, and even 70. At one point, everything shifted for him. Rotten hands burst from the ground, grabbing Enkrid and pulling at his legs. He let himself be carried away, realizing he had finally achieved a breakthrough. Sometime later, Enkrid saw that he had accomplished what he set out to do. Watch closely as Jackson lunged for the kill. Enkrid dodged with perfect timing. Jackson was shocked he'd improved so fast, but it had been 72 days. Enkrid prepared himself once more, arming himself to the very teeth for battle. Rem asked if he was going to war at the cobbler's house today. "I won't stop until I've retired at least 10 of those boots," Enkrid replied. Panta watched him, thinking there were 6 paths and only one led to a safe exit. But that was just a theory. Whoever made this tunnel was totally insane. There were traps on all 6 paths, and Enkrid never expected safety anyway. Whether it was hands, blades, or fire, every route was designed to kill him. But trust me, you and I are about to see what he noticed. He thought everything would fail, but he finally caught a lucky break. All right, stick with me. You are about to watch him navigate a hallway of death. One wrong step on this path means getting burned to a crisp in an instant. He dies over and over, trial and error style, until he finally finds a lead. With millimeter precision, our main character finally starts to push through the danger. Step by step, testing and dying, he slowly maps out the path to survival. He locks the route into his memory and prepares for another perfect run. His 6th sense awakens as he visualizes every single trap he has already triggered. Navigating the final stretch, he finally clears the gauntlet and reaches the end. A new room opens up, and just as he thinks he is safe, danger strikes. An undead lunges, but he reacts instantly, slashing its throat with cold, sharp precision. Sensing their killing intent, he thanks his victim as more monsters begin to swarm. To him, this is just a gift of extra experience. The horde keeps coming. Now pay attention. He is about to face ghouls with deadly, poisonous claws. Normally, it takes a whole squad to handle just one of these ghouls. But our boy is getting stronger, making these legendary threats look like total fodder. He dives straight into the chaos, cutting down everything in his way. Exhaustion sets in. He realizes that was some of his best fighting to date. He wishes the comrades who called him weak could see him right now. Suddenly, a freakish hybrid beast, half dog and half deer, launches a brutal ambush. This is no wolf. It is a twisted fusion of multiple different animals. He wonders what kind of nightmare created this, and how many more exist. Nearby, Panta is hunting for him, sensing something is very wrong today. Why would he gear up like a soldier for a simple shoe shop visit? Knowing his reckless nature, she worries his sudden death would become her problem. Sensing a strange energy within, she detects the lingering scent of dark magic. She prepares to move in as he continues his bloody slaughter inside. Dealing with wave after wave of monsters, he feels his body nearing collapse. He is on his last legs, but then a strange sound echoes nearby. Is it another beast, or the sick mind behind this whole excavation? Let's pause, because what you and I see next is truly horrific. Human remains are hanging from the ceiling like laundry on a line. Having survived years of war, he thought he was desensitized to death. Ordinary bodies don't bother him, but this twisted scene turns his stomach. A voice begs for the sweet release of death from the shadows. He spots a familiar ring on the hand of the dying person. He recalls the mission: find the woman with brown hair and freckles. Seeing her in this state, wearing that ring, sends him into a rage. A villain named Nissan appears, claiming he needed fresh ingredients for his work. He calls our main character the perfect addition to his twisted little collection. He wants to build a new friend for the beast lurking behind him. When asked if he murdered all these people, Nissan doesn't even flinch. He takes full credit, acting like this massacre is some grand achievement. The bodies above are just failures, while the beast Bamillo is his masterpiece. He promises to turn our main character into something even more incredible. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Stick with me, you're about to see why surviving a mage's curse is way worse than dying. But Enkrid is past the point of caring. He grips his sword with pure, concentrated hatred. He swears to take this life, even if he has to sacrifice tens of thousands of others. Without a second of hesitation, he hurls his dagger straight at the mage. But Nisan is ready, summoning a glowing magical barrier to protect himself. Enkrid charges in close, desperate to land a hit, but gets caught on the shield. He hits the barrier and gets blasted back, but he refuses to stay down. That's when Panta arrives on the scene, watching the fight unfold. She realizes the mage is weak compared to the massive power she has been hiding. Suddenly, a lethal spell ricochets directly toward our main character at high speed. It nearly hits him squarely, coming inches from ending it all. Blind and deaf in the chaos, he relies purely on his assassin instincts. He dodges, shocking the mage, and immediately activates his combat zone. The mage panics, firing spells in every direction to keep him away. Enkrid remembers Rem's advice: shoot with everything you have to secure the kill. That reckless tactic nearly gets him killed in the process. Jackson's advice was simple: strike when he isn't looking. Odin said get as close as possible. Enkrid does it all. Ragnar's words echo in his mind: if he cuts him, he surely dies. Now pay attention. That murderous aura is enough to freeze a mage in their tracks. He eyes the invisible shield that protects his enemy. If his dagger fails, he'll break through with raw, unstoppable brute force. He leaps into the air, putting everything into one strike. The mage counters, summoning magic spikes to pierce him from the ground. Both of them are out of options, backed into a corner now. Panta is calm, knowing the armor's magic will reflect the coming strike. The mage's shield finally shatters into pieces. You and I saw it coming. He's wide open and absolutely finished now. Enkrid cleaves him in two, though death feels like too much mercy. That single sword strike vents just a small part of his burning rage. He destroyed the mage, overcoming another barrier on his journey. His blade is at its limit and nearly shatters from the pure force. He's just glad it was the sword that broke. That counterattack could have easily shredded his body to pieces. Unharmed, he wonders why he took no damage. Checking his armor, he looks back at the woman in the tunnel. She was his original reason for taking this mission. Her life has faded completely. Enkrid feels the heavy weight of this loss. He mastered the sixth sense and won the fight, but there's zero joy in this victory. Leaving them behind, he exits the tunnel into the cold. Panta scoffs at the mage, calling his efforts pathetic and foolish. He built a golem, but lacked the spine to actually use it. It will soon awaken. She claims the golem as her own prize, imbuing her paw with magic. Trust me, it's beginning. Back at camp, Enkrid hits the ferry and drops a massive truth bomb. That mage lair was hidden right under the shoemaker's shop. Unbelievable, right? Citizens were kidnapped for dark experiments. The city is hiding a nightmare. If this leaks, a revolt is coming. Enkrid says we bury this forever. She is shocked. Why hide his massive contribution and let it stay buried? To him, peace for the common folk is worth more than any fame. He watches soldiers filling the hole at the shop. The secret is sealed. Neighbors are getting suspicious. They wonder what is really going on in there. Soldiers lie, claiming they are just blocking off old tunnels from the thieves. The shoemaker is stunned. Monsters? No, just the Thieves' Guild, the man asks. In gratitude, the old man pulls out a pair of boots for Enkrid. He noticed Enkrid's old gear was worn down to almost nothing. If his wife just comes back safe, his heart will finally be whole. He knows he is being selfish, but he begs Enkrid to find her. Now watch closely, this is getting really heavy. Mouth, but he won't crush the old man's only hope. He promises to try. He promises to try. Later, he watches the sun dip below the horizon. Sitting there, sword in the dirt, he wonders if lying was actually the right choice. Should he have told the brutal truth instead? The guilt is eating him. If he becomes a knight, can he stop these tragedies before they start? He does not have the answers, but he is going to keep trying. Later, Enkrid is with his squad, hunting some very strange canine beasts. Those eyes are everywhere, staring in every direction around their nasty maws. Other soldiers are struggling hard, but Enkrid's team is just totally chilling. Hold your ground and stay calm, he commands his team with ease. He took this request right after the mage fight for some action. But honestly, facing these things is turning out to be way too simple. Even the low-rank rookies are clearing these monsters without breaking a sweat. Enkrid feels stagnant, while Rem is literally yawning next to him. This is just routine work. Should he have taken a solo mission instead? Trust me, you and I know he belongs on a solo mission instead. Rem spots the look on his face and decides to handle things personally. He draws his axes and charges into those wolves like a complete madman. Enkrid is just confused by Rem's sudden burst of pure aggression. The others scream for the spellbreaker to stop that lunatic before he dies. But bad luck for the others, Enkrid is just as insane as the rest. Did the insane squad finally corrupt you too? A soldier asks him. He draws his blade and charges the beasts, completely independent. He starts harvesting heads left and right as Rem watches the show. Rem laughs, saying the leader was the one who corrupted them all. You are the craziest one here, Enkrid fires back while in the zone. And trust me, you and I can see who is really crazy. All right, you and I are about to see absolute calm meet pure animalistic ferocity. Those other soldiers watch this grim scene from afar, frozen, knowing they are both completely insane. Without even glancing back, Enkrid somehow manages to slaughter the very last of the attackers. All right, you and I are about to see these guys fight like absolute beasts. Enkrid still looks down. Rem asks, you are seriously still not satisfied with this? Then they challenge him. If you want a real fight, why not head to the heavy infantry? He asks if there are forts nearby. They tell him the heavy units are out hunting. They are fighting a monster horde, and these things are on another level of tough. Think gorilla mixed with dinosaur. Yeah, it is basically a nightmare come to life. Things are looking grim. They scream for archers, desperate for some kind of backup. Everyone needs to hold the line until they arrive. Then, something truly terrifying appears. A massive harpy flies in with its flock, snatching soldiers right off the ground. They carry them high into the sky. Once they hit peak altitude, they just let go. The fall kills them instantly. The survivors can only watch in horror, knowing they are next. Disbelief turns into pure panic. Rem, running alongside Enkrid, watches the carnage unfold. He casually comments on how much that fall must have hurt. Classic Rem, right? Enkrid stares at the harpies. He remembers the mercenary group they slaughtered years ago. He was the only survivor. It cuts deep because they were actually good people. Now pay attention, because he draws his blade with one thought, no more deaths. Enkrid charges head-on as a harpy lets out a piercing, ear-splitting screech. Soldiers collapse, covering their ears and shouting to block out the deafening noise. Enkrid knows that scream is meant to shatter a human mind, but he does not stop. He keeps pushing forward. One of the beasts dives down, trying to snatch him. It wants to drop him from the clouds, but Enkrid, he is completely unfazed. This pain is nothing compared to death itself. He does not even flinch. With raw strength, he rips a wing right off, sending the beast spiraling down. Rem tells the leader that Enkrid is moving like a blur all over the field. He grabs a harpy by the leg, shouting for the others to drag it down. Then he looks at Enkrid. How about a bet on who can stack more bodies? Enkrid slams another one into the dirt with sheer brute force, pure domination. As he finishes it off, another harpy sneaks up behind him, ready to strike. But even with his eyes closed, he senses the predator closing in on him. Before she can react, Enkrid tells Rem he is not here for games. He sidesteps the attack, vanishes behind the creature, and delivers a lethal blow. One strike, that is all it takes. The soldiers watching are absolutely stunned. They knew Rem was a fighter, but this spellbreaker, he is on another level. Check this out, even the veterans cannot believe what they are witnessing right now. Rem gets hyped, swinging his axe and tearing through those abominations like paper. Enkrid keeps up the pace, his entire focus locked onto his sword path. Tors notices that Enkrid's skill has reached a whole new peak. For the rest of them, it is fine to just sit back and watch the show. Tors admits it does not even look like they need the two of them out there. It is wild, right? Those two are basically an entire army on their own. Two harpies dive, knocking the sword from Enkrid's hand and throwing him back. He spots where his blade landed, but the beasts are not giving him time. They charge him immediately, but he draws his howling dagger and strikes one directly in the skull. Enkrid stays intensely focused. As one falls, the other lunges for a frontal kill, but he sprints straight toward the beast. All right, stick with me, because Enkrid is about to go absolute beast mode. He snatches his blade mid-dash, spins, and rips that abomination apart instantly. The remaining 3 harpies begin to circle the soldiers from high above. One soldier wonders if they're fleeing, but the reality is much crazier. They say he's scaring the monsters away and isn't even human anymore. Enkrid looks at the massacre, thinking of the harpies that killed his friends. These might not be the same ones, but this moment means everything. He remembers back when he was younger, and a man called him weak. They died to save him, leaving only that final, ridiculous smile behind. As he remembers this, he decides it is finally his turn to save them. Tors suggests that since the harpies are gone, it is time to return. However, the others argue that leaving now, without doing more, feels wrong. He asks if they shouldn't at least hunt down the remaining humanoid monsters. A soldier points out they were only sent as support and can leave. Rem turns to Enkrid and asks him what he plans to do next. Now watch this part closely. Enkrid says it is too early to quit. Seeing him want to continue the battle, everyone thinks he has gone insane. As night falls, the soldiers in camp can't stop talking about Enkrid. He still trains with a massive stone on his back despite the danger. People used to doubt his potential, but now he is on another level. If someone that strong is working this hard, they should push themselves too. His friend agrees and promises to start training much harder from now on. Enkrid starts making a huge difference, taking on missions all over the place. The guild worker asks if he didn't just take a mission yesterday. He says he will finish this one fast and take on even more tonight. They wonder exactly how many bodies Enkrid has already managed to rack up. He doesn't stop training for a minute, continuing even after the sun sets. The lookout notices he never skips a day and wonders if he enjoys it. Then he wonders if he should try it too, training right alongside him. You and I are seeing a revolution here. The training circle grows daily. One night, several people are seen training even at that late hour. Another day, the commander notices the camp's atmosphere has changed quite a lot. Everyone is being incredibly diligent and training harder than they ever have. The assistant says it has become a trend to follow the legendary spellbreaker. The fairy commander ponders this, realizing she can no longer ignore what is happening. She goes to Enkrid and says they had a very long meeting about him. This is the decision from the superiors, and she asks that he obeys. From now on, the 4th squad is being promoted to an independent platoon. You are the leader of this independent platoon, starting from this very moment. Enkrid argues that 5 subordinates aren't enough to actually form a real platoon. The fairy commander tells him she will handle the issue of new members. Enkrid likes the promotion, but he worries about dealing with many more peculiar people. She explains that as a leader, he will be free from regular duties. This means he will have even more time to focus on his training. We know he's sold. All right, you and I are about to watch our hero's biggest task yet. The task was his, but the fairy smirked, saying it was too early to leave. She offered a duel instead. Enkrid stared back as she gave him the rules. It was strictly hand-to-hand combat, no weapons allowed. Enkrid braced himself. He still felt the sting from his last loss against the battalion commander. He had trained like a madman with Elinia, that absolute mountain of muscle. He felt stronger now. Accepting the challenge, Enkrid prepared to test his skills. He tossed his sword aside. It was time to see if training paid off. Squaring up, he remembered Alina's advice. This was about to get real intense. In close quarters, speed beats everything. Complexity just gets you killed in a fight. The fairy lunged at Enkrid, striking first with blinding speed. She tagged his hand, closing the gap instantly. Enkrid knew he needed a plan. His best bet was using his size. He had to overpower her with weight. He charged, forcing her back, and then slammed into her with everything. He tackled her to the dirt, using his heavy frame to pin her fast. Forearm on her neck, he locked her down. "Looks like I win," he declared. "Now pay attention here, because this fairy is about to flip the script." She just smirked, mocking his bold human ego with an intense, haunting gaze. Her eyes were piercing. Enkrid felt that familiar, suspicious vibe creeping in again. He was getting annoyed. Suddenly, she snatched his leg with lightning reflexes. She used his own weight against him, flipping him over and taking lead. "Nose to nose," she whispered. "Finding a weakness and exploiting it is key." "Leverage is everything," she said, mentioning how her husband used to do it. She told him to keep grinding, but Enkrid wasn't having any of it. "I'm not your husband," he snapped, pushing her off and standing his ground. She stepped back and apologized, leaving Enkrid completely confused by her behavior. He didn't get it. She explained she felt bad for failing to protect him. "Protect me from what?" he asked, but she just stayed silent, dodging it. "Let's pause for a second, because the weather isn't the only thing heating up." As winter faded, the frozen battlefield finally started to wake up again. Armies marched, all-out war was here. Aspen had completely overhauled their tactics. They were learning from mistakes. Suddenly, a powerful figure took the stage. A major speech began. Because of this, the entire army prepared for combat. Strategy shifted across the board. Meet the newly appointed commander, Marcos. That was the new commander, Marcos. Christ knew he was a dangerous threat. If he's leading this unit, they are definitely going for the kill. He's one of Cyprus's finest officers, a master strategist with massive experience. He's not like the old guys. He's precise, cold, and battle-hardened. Marcos was the real deal. He knew Aspen wouldn't be an easy target. But with their heavy divisions busy, his army was mostly raw recruits. Just a bunch of disposables. Only one group actually caught his attention. It was that independent platoon and their leader, the famous Spellbreaker. He'd been racking up wins nonstop since the last major clash. "So what do you and I think? Is it luck or real skill?" Marcos wanted proof. That afternoon, Enkrid went to meet the rest of the squad. "Stick with me, we're diving into a river scout mission that smells like trouble." Enkrid suddenly realizes this order came straight from the battalion commander himself. Everything about the ferry finally clicks while he's being crushed by Alden's weight. Christ chimes in, saying the specific location has to be the fortress city of Aspen. The others agree it's near Crossward, a place built strictly for military border defense. Everything about this territory was designed with one thing in mind: total war. Meet Henry, the newest member of our independent platoon. Henry clarifies that heading there now is purely a reconnaissance mission. Rem warns him to stay back, but Enkrid cannot refuse a commander's order. Not letting him go alone, Rem decides he's coming along too. Andrew steps in, announcing that the entire platoon must now follow their brand new leader. Except for Enkrid, everyone is forced to wait under this guy's questionable command. Turns out, this was another direct order from the battalion commander himself. Andrew tries to boss Enkrid around, but Rem isn't having it. Now watch this, Rem starts licking his axe with a purely lethal expression. The pure killing intent in Rem's eyes has Andrew shaking like a leaf. Rem asks why there's a literal insect crawling around in their unit today. Desperate, Andrew stammers that he's the leader, and they all need to fall in line. Jim notes that Andrew is trembling so hard, he can feel the vibrations. Ragnar just stares, asking if this sad excuse is actually their leader. Andrew snaps back, telling Ragnar to face him head-on if he has a problem. He claims he entered this hell just to serve Enkrid and won't quit. Rem is getting restless, noting that this little bug seems surprisingly fired up. It's clear Rem is ready to squash him like the insect he is. Jim joins the fun, asking to gently rearrange a few of Andrew's joints. Jackson is already reaching for his dagger, thinking a single finger is enough. Enkrid tries to calm them down, but Ragnar tells him to focus on the duel. Mike starts panicking, begging Enkrid to please keep his wild platoon under control. And yeah, trust me, Enkrid just wants to watch the chaos. He shrugs it off, claiming the group actually seems to be getting along well. Mac is horrified, questioning if this is a fair duel or just a straight execution. Enkrid stays completely silent. He probably knows these brutes are about to give the rookie a very bad day. Mac demands to know why he isn't saying anything to stop this madness. He shouts that a Gardner family member like him never runs from a fight. Mike screams at him to shut up before he provokes those monsters further. Henry pulls Enkrid aside, asking if he knows the dangers near the river. He mentions that there are countless hidden threats waiting for them there. Before the mission, he offers some vital intel that Enkrid immediately accepts. After hearing the truth, Enkrid slips out of the camp alone that night. He runs into Tors, who asks if he's the one handling this scouting job. Tors laughs, wondering if it's fate that they keep crossing paths like this. He hears about the promotion and notes they finally hold the same rank. Enkrid just smiles, saying it is nothing compared to being in the Royal Guard. He shrugs it off, trust me, we know better. Tors simply asks why. All right, you and I are about to see a bromance turn into a brutal rivalry. Enkrid was 30 years old. Tors practically choked, refusing to believe his own ears. How could he be 30 with a face like that? Tors felt like an ancient old man. Enkrid didn't really get the drama. Tors wondered if time was only hating him specifically. Dropping all formalities, Enkrid got straight to the point. What is our actual mission plan? Tors said the plan was to cross the Pennell River together, as a team. Once across, they would regroup and go over the finer details of the job. No boatmen in sight. Tors sighed deeply and told Enkrid they might as well rest while waiting. Enkrid agreed, but immediately pulled out his sword and started training like a complete maniac. I told you to rest, Tors yelled. Enkrid simply replied, this is how I rest. Tors realized this guy was unstoppable. A total training addict with insane recognized skills. Watching him practice, Tors couldn't help but notice how young and handsome he looked. Jealousy started to boil. Enkrid just had way too many natural advantages in life. Tors was seething with hatred. Plus, Enkrid was single, that made it even more annoying. Enkrid suddenly felt a wave of pure killing intent coming from his partner. He hesitated, wondering what was wrong with the look in Tors' eyes right now. Tors tried to hype himself up. He'd won 14 out of 20 matches before. He convinced himself that Enkrid wouldn't stand a single chance in a real fight. But Enkrid just smiled. That is all in the past. I am much stronger now. Now watch this part carefully, because things are about to get physical. Tors pulled his sword, ready to duel. He wasn't the only one getting stronger. Enkrid was actually happy to hear that. He'd been itching for a real challenge for ages. The two legends clashed. Tors lunged forward, and the battle turned absolutely fierce. They faced each other head-on. Neither man was willing to miss even one strike. Tors began to feel the heavy pressure. Enkrid was a beast on the field. He admitted that even back at the sink, he knew Enkrid was becoming insanely strong. Enkrid did not hold back, showing off his growth with a completely stone-cold face. Tors used sheer brutality to throw him back, then lunged in with a punch. It was a total shift in strategy. Enkrid braced himself to face the hit head-on. But you and I can see Tors is playing dirty. Look at his hand. Enkrid realized the punch was a distraction. Tors was hiding a dagger in his palm. He moved like lightning, narrowly avoiding a fatal blow and taking a small scratch. A blade in your pocket? Enkrid asked. Where did that even come from? Tors smirked. This is my secret technique. The hidden blade, pretty effective, right? Enkrid was stunned. That is unbelievable. Instead of being angry, Enkrid was smiling with pure joy. He was madly excited. Teach me, that is too cool. He pleaded with Tors to show him the trick. Tors realized Enkrid was just a diligent madman. Fine, start with a smooth stone. Enkrid messed up immediately. Tors told him to watch closer and learn the wrist flick. Your hand-eye coordination is terrible, Tors teased. Try it a completely different way. Just then, a boatman finally approached them, asking if they still needed to cross. They boarded the boat, By the time they reached the shore, they were exhausted. Spending the whole night training in the water had drained every bit of their energy. Enkrid asked where the reconnaissance team was. They needed to find the meeting point. You and I are going to want to see what happens next. Stay tuned. First things first, let's clean up. You and I know we can't start a mission smelling like this. Sweating isn't the plan. Enkrid realizes he's a mess, and they both strip down to dive in. Tors shouts it's freezing, hurry up and jump. Get in already, but as soon as Enkrid strips, Tors is hit with a massive shock. His jaw literally drops at what he sees. He shouts out, "You greedy bastard." Then he jokes his fighting spirit just died. He teases him to not hold back. Tors tells him to bring it, calling him an idiot. "I'm not trying to duel you." Just then, an ally appears, saying she came to check since they were taking so long. Seems they're just enjoying a nice bath. Enkrid spins around instantly, asking how long she's been there. He didn't even sense her presence. This is Finn, and she tells them they need to reach Crossguard tonight, so get out of there. Tors asks if she's really going to watch. She says there is nothing to see. Stop complaining. Enkrid doesn't even argue and just stands up to leave. Seeing him, Finn freezes, a very mischievous smile slowly spreading across her face. She admits there actually was something worth seeing on his end after all. Tors tells her she's being way too obvious. She tries to play it off, claiming she was only talking about his abs, just the abs. Tors fires back, saying his abs are cool too. Finn introduces herself to Enkrid as the captain. She's the scout leader and looks forward to working together. Enkrid just gives a silent wave in greeting. Tors is still worried about his own abs. Now here's the part where we get serious. Stick with me for the mission details. Finn starts summarizing the situation. It turns out their main informant, Gato, found critical intel they needed 4 days ago. But Gato never showed up at the meeting point and went dark. He hasn't made contact since. Enkrid asks if something happened to him. Finn says that is what they need to find out during this infiltration. They're going into Crossguard. The front garden is a land of monsters. The enemy thinks it's a natural barrier, so they don't patrol it very much. Because of that, they've managed to secure 3 different infiltration routes. First is the smuggler's tunnel, usually used by the city's black market vendors. The guards know it's there but ignore it. You saw that coming, right? Second is climbing the castle walls at night. It's tough but very safe. Finally, they could disguise themselves as merchants to just walk right in. That's risky since they'd use the main gate, but it's much more comfortable. Finn explains that all routes are difficult, so they need to choose. Enkrid thinks it over, realizing Finn is making this sound way too easy. He knows it won't be simple. Tors suggests Finn should just choose. Since she knows the situation best, she should make the final call. Finn decides they'll head out at dawn through that smuggler's tunnel. In that grim forest, a red moon and a normal one shine together. Enkrid continues his training, practicing Tors' hidden knife technique. Watching him, Tors feels disappointed. With those skills, how did he learn? He wonders how he learned that expression, but he cheers up quickly. He'll get there, just keep practicing. Finn walks over to them both, and trust me, we're all curious about what Enkrid is planning next. All right, let's jump in, as Finn finds Enkrid training like a madman. She hands him food from a squad mate who wants to be a chef. Enkrid digs in, loving the meal, while Tors asks about the jerky. The seasoning is amazing, and Finn says she can get plenty more. That chef's parents run a shop nearby that we can visit anytime. But then, she drops a warning about their current training spot. Under that reddish stone right there, a deadly venomous snake is waiting. Enkrid is stunned and asks how she could possibly know that. Finn learned it from a former hunter who used to be her companion. She smiles, seeing how prepared Enkrid is, clearly liking him even more. She teasingly asks if he wants some more mature training with her. Tors is fuming with jealousy, while Enkrid takes her way too seriously. He asks what she means, and she just laughs at his reaction. She was just flirting, calling him an idiot for missing the hint. She asks again, promising that despite her looks, she is actually gentle. Tors feels totally ignored and asks them to stop while he is there. Enkrid refuses, so she asks if he is in a relationship. Then she remembers the rumor about his engagement to the company commander. Enkrid gets annoyed, asking when that was ever made official. Finn tells him to just speak casually with her from now on. He agrees, and she tells them they leave for Crossguard tomorrow. Tors is left out in the cold as they prepare for rest. Now stick with me. Under a red moon, Enkrid encounters death once again. He wakes up knowing the spirit must have something important to say. He thinks back to the fairy who failed to protect him before. It is clear this mission is going to be a massive hurdle. Enkrid lets out a psychopathic smile, ready for the upcoming chaos. The next morning, the trio approaches the hidden smuggler's tunnel. Tors is confused why they are moving during the bright day. He thought infiltrations were always supposed to happen at night. Finn calls him stupid, explaining that guards wouldn't just ignore this path. Here is the trick: they catch them off guard by attacking in the morning. Tors is impressed, realizing these two really do think differently. But he still feels like a joke because of Finn's favoritism. Finn moves ahead as the ranger, finding the path for them. Enkrid watches her closely, noting she needs to stay light and silent. As she steps, her feet make absolutely zero sound on the ground. He wonders if he can mimic that level of stealthy movement. But as he steps forward, enemy soldiers suddenly appear ahead. They shout that they have caught the rats in a trap. Finn realizes it is an ambush and yells for everyone to retreat. The soldiers block them, screaming that there is nowhere left to run. They are ordered to kill them as Finn tries to push through. Suddenly, a hail of crossbow bolts flies straight toward our heroes. Trust me, you and I are about to see if Enkrid survives this. Finn had to throw her arm out, blocking an arrow meant for Enkrid's heart. She then charges a soldier, ending his life with one heavy axe swing. Tors fought like a beast too, dropping enemies and surviving the initial ambush. But Enkrid noticed Tors and Finn weren't trained to handle multiple enemies at once. In a chaotic brawl like this, they simply couldn't use their full strength. Finn makes a fatal mistake, leaving her back wide open for a second. A soldier aims his crossbow right at her head, no room for error. Watch this: Tors gets cornered by a single enemy and ends up dead. Finn takes a bolt to the skull. Enkrid is now the only survivor. He stares at the massive wall, acknowledging the challenge, but he refuses to give in. Alone now, he carves through the guards, burying his howling daggers into their necks. He clears them out with ease, moving like a phantom on the battlefield. Using every ounce of his combat experience, he starts decimating their entire army. One man screams for them to surround him, desperate to stop the slaughter. They finally hit Enkrid, slamming him down into the cold, hard dirt. Dozens of spears pierce his body, but he fights until his very last breath. He sees the final spears coming, then wakes up again that same morning. Enkrid realizes there's no way they gathered troops that fast. It was a trap. He wonders if the enemy already knew about their secret infiltration plan. As he thinks, Finn asks why he's stopping. They need to hit the entrance. But Enkrid has a bad feeling about that path. He suggests the walls instead. Tors reminds them that Enkrid already took out a magic core, so trust him. He tells them to follow the man's gut. Listening to him definitely wouldn't hurt. For everyone else, it looks like intuition, but Enkrid knows the truth. You and I know it wasn't instinct. It was the brutal experience of dying. Finn agrees, noting that climbing the wall at night would be way safer. They have some free time until sunset. Then, Enkrid proposes a sudden duel. Finn blushes, completely getting the wrong idea about his words. She calls him brave for wanting to do that in broad daylight. Enkrid quickly clarifies, he means a regular fight, not an adult duel. Disappointed, she accepts, but swords aren't her specialty anyway. So Enkrid suggests they settle this with bare-handed combat. Confident now, she gets into a fighting stance, ready to face him. Enkrid knows a fight is coming, no matter which route they choose. Testing Finn's power now is the perfect way to prep for the real battle. He offers her the first move, but she tells him to attack. Enkrid throws a direct punch, but she dodges it with lightning speed. She fires back a knee strike that he barely blocks with his palm. They reset, but she immediately lunges with a powerful kick to his face. He blocks just in time, her foot inches away from his nose. He decides to use the same trick he used on the ferry commander. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next time. You and I join as he slams her down, but look, she's grabbed his hand. Too bad for him, Finn is a jiu-jitsu pro who just called out his mistake. She locks his shoulder and neck tight, moving straight for a brutal armbar. Stick with me, we're jumping into tours, stopping this fight before it breaks. Finn had just scored a win over Enkrid, who totally underestimated her power, thinking his size was enough. He realized that despite her small frame, she was pure muscle, built way more for brawling than for swordplay. She declared it was his total loss. Enkrid looked at her as the perfect training partner and asked for a second round. She blushed hard, realizing he meant a real duel. He asked how she knew. Tours got annoyed by their flirting, telling them to save it for later. As the sun set, Finn told the team they were heading out soon. She asked if Enkrid was really going to carry that mountain of gear. He asked what the problem was. She said he had too many heavy weapons and he would collapse halfway. Tours asked Finn for her thoughts. She looked at him and just shrugged, saying it seemed fine. Tours felt the sting of her indifference, muttering that it hurt. Enkrid insisted he was strong enough to climb the Moro mountain. Even with that heavy pack, Finn called him naive for thinking so. They weren't just climbing, they had to cross a jagged rocky range first. That height is ridiculous, you and I are in for a ride. Enkrid said it wouldn't be easy, but walls are meant to be climbed. Returning to the wizard's cave, he grabbed supplies for a new sword. His old one was shattered, and he needed a serious replacement. Christ was shocked, Enkrid actually had a rare magical tool on him. Selling just one would fully gear up the captain from head to toe. Enkrid replied they were using that gold to buy the ultimate blade. Christ only cared about steel. For Enkrid, who lived by the blade, his weapon was his life. Leaving it behind was never an option. He hauled it up the steep hill, gritting his teeth through the strain. Finn reminded him from above, this is why she said leave the sword. That long sword alone would exhaust any normal man on this climb. Enkrid felt the crushing weight, but he believed in pushing his limits. Pushing his muscles to the brink was the only way to get stronger. He had conquered countless obstacles before, and this wall wouldn't stop him. He finally reached the peak. Finn couldn't help but notice something. You and I see he loves the struggle. This guy is insane. Tours figured it was intentional training. Nobody would be this reckless naturally. At the summit, wild wolves were howling under a blood-red moon. Looking down, Enkrid spotted beasts that looked way more like werewolves. It was a pack of lycanthropes. Tours noted how rare this was. They were moving in huge numbers. Finn said it was getting serious. The wall was in sight. Tours saw there was nowhere to hide. Soldiers were everywhere. Finn told them to stay calm and wait. Full moonlight makes things easier because the guards get careless. They lose focus. Seeing a guard turn away, she gave the signal. They rushed toward the wall, but Enkrid noticed something was very wrong. One guard is still watching. You and I better watch this closely. All right, you and I are about to watch a high-stakes infiltration go horribly wrong. Finn wonders if they were spotted, but claims the darkness makes their job much easier. Enkrid cannot shake the feeling of being watched, fearing it is more than just imagination. Finn wipes her hands and explains the plan, scale the wall to reach the slums. If they can just blend in with the local slum dwellers, finding them will be impossible. She pulls a grappling hook from her gear, ready to lead them up the barrier. But first, she tells Enkrid to ditch the sword. This climb is brutal compared to mountains. Enkrid refuses, insisting on the extra weight for his training. Tours thinks he is a lunatic. So they begin the ascent, with Enkrid lugging that insane burden all the way up. He finally sees why they call this the safe route. It is a direct path inside.